So thank you, Scott. Scott did a great job of talking about the other trustees that are here, the different groups, the staff, and thanking everybody. I'd like to acknowledge Scott McCarty as the chair. He has served for over 3 years as the chair of PSPRS. So he's taken a lot of additional duties, not just being a trustee. So if we could just acknowledge Scott and his contributions to the system. So as Scott mentioned, my name is Mike Townsend. I'm the administrator. I think a better description would be a director of the system that kind of aligns with what the ASRS title is. I've been with the system for 4 years. I spent 25 years prior to that in local government. So I spent a lot of time working with pension systems. I was on the board of trustees with ASRS. So a lot of years exposed to pensions. I think this is fun. I'm probably the odd man out in that respect. As Scott talked about the outreach, the education that we've been going through, that was one of the things that I was focused on when I took this job, was really building that understanding around pensions. I think pensions are a great benefit. I think there's a win-win for both taxpayers, the economy, and members. And so we wanted to try something a little bit different for this session than we've done in the past. And talking about why do we need to understand pensions. So our advisory committee at PSPRS created a recruitment and retention working group, and they're working through the Morrison Institute with the 3 universities across the state. And they were looking around issues of recruitment and retention for public safety positions. There's been a lot of challenges with turnover, vacancies. One of the findings that came out of the interviews and surveys that they went through were that newer plan members do not value defined benefit pensions the same as long-term members. I don't think anybody is shocked by that, right? I know as I go further in my career, I'm having a much better understanding, a much better appreciation of my pension and what's going to be available in retirement. So what we wanted to do was look at especially after the 4 years with all the outreach to mostly employers around pensions, the thought was, well, how do we provide this information to members, right? It's a much larger group. So what we're trying to do is kind of from a train the trainer perspective. How do we create information around pensions, how they work, what's the value for you, for local board members, for active members? How do you explain to new members what the value is of this pension? And maybe this is something that helps all of you. It actually makes me feel pretty good when I go through this. It reminds me of the benefit that I have as well and all of my staff. So how do we provide that information? How do we explain it? Because pensions are very complex, right? It gets very confusing very fast. So how do we keep it up at a high level, be concise? And then also, the one thing that I try to do is use my situation, think of it personally, and put myself in their situation. Try to understand their perspective, where they're coming from. Because really, retirement is scary for everyone, right? It's this huge unknown. We don't even know if we're doing it right, planning for retirement. We're not really sure if we're even going to be ready. But even though it's scary, are we better off not planning for that reality? We're hoping retirement comes, but we're not really sure what we're going to do about it. And so how do we make choices today to put us in a better position tomorrow? So I have some percentages here that I picked up from different publications around the country that to me are pretty shocking. 56% of baby boomers are worried about outliving their retirement savings, right? That's a big one. I think everybody in this room, anybody that has a pension, which I'm sure a lot of you in the room have a pension, it's guaranteed for your life, right? You're not going to outlive a pension. That's a great benefit. 79% of middle-income baby boomers have no savings put aside to cover their retirement. So if you just think about the members that we have in the PSPRS system, every one of those members has some kind of a retirement benefit, right? It's already there when they start and build it over their life or their career. 29% of workers under 55 answered, I don't think I will ever retire. That's so just think that's a little bleak outlook, isn't it? I'm going to spend my entire life working. I'm never going to be able to retire. And so in trying to put yourself in their situation, one of the things I thought about is there's probably a lot of examples in their own lives, right? How many of them have relatives, friends, parents that are worried about how are they going to retire, how are they going to pay for retirement? So again, this message, right, this challenge for retirement, there's a lot of mixed messages, especially when we're looking at new members. And so putting yourself in their situation, right, to really understand that, because I can't tell you, I hear this over and over again, is we just need to tell people they need to plan for retirement, right? How many times have you heard that? You just need to plan for retirement. But nobody tells you how to do it, right? And telling somebody to do something, right? I think anybody who's ever had kids, trying to tell your kids this is just what you should do is not going to make it happen. So when you think about human nature, right, that fight or flight reaction that we have, it's how am I going to survive? What am I going to do right now? I'm not worried about what's going to happen years and years and decades into the future. So a 25-year-old, telling them to focus on what they're going to plan for when they're in their 50s. If you just think of their situation, they're 25. That's a whole nother lifetime away. Why am I going to start planning for decades into the future? And then the other thing too is in our society today, this focus on mindfulness, right? Don't worry about yesterday, that's past, don't relive it. Tomorrow isn't even here yet, don't fret about what's not going to happen. And then we turn around and ask, okay, but what are you doing about retirement, right? Which is decades into the future. So there's just a lot of mixed messages out there. So when you're talking to a new member, the way I try to explain it is to break it down into simple terms. And this works no matter, so I know there's different benefits. There's different tiers. We got public safety, we got corrections, we got elected officials. There's other state plans. I'm in ASRS, so I tried to get this from a pension perspective. No matter which plan you're in, what level of benefits, right? Because this applies across all pensions. And so for a defined benefit pension, there's 2 dates that are very important. And to me, this is something that you can repeat over and over again. So the 2 points, number 1 is the hire date. So the instant they're hired, something happens in a defined benefit system that doesn't happen with any other retirement planning. You're guaranteed that formula, right? So whatever formula is in statute cannot be reduced, diminished, impaired. So that's a congratulatory point, right? So you get a new member that's just hired, congratulate them. Congratulations, you got 2 key dates for your retirement, you just got the first one locked in. Your formula's locked in, this is what you're gonna get and it's guaranteed. Next one is a retirement date. So they need to do their part of the deal, they have to get to normal retirement, but there's that retirement date. And once you get there, that income is guaranteed for your lifetime. Okay? And to me, that's a huge selling point. So I put at the end of this, you get this every month. And then I put versus earning a paycheck, right? So if you think about earning a paycheck, you have a schedule, you gotta show up for work, you have specific duties you're required to do, you have to perform those duties, you get evaluated, right? You have to go through all of these things to earn your paycheck every pay period. So my brother-in-law is a retired firefighter. When I run into him at the first of every month, he tells me thank you. He said, I got paid this month. And then he also reminds me, he goes, you know what I did to earn that paycheck this month? I woke up. That's it. That's like earning a paycheck for waking up for the rest of your life. So just that thought for someone in their 20s, if you want to get paid for just being around and hanging out, you can get there. In this job, you can get there. So I want to cover this real quick because when we talk about it's guaranteed, it's in the Constitution, it's going to be paid, there's only one extreme example where something would happen where that might be reduced or something happened to the pension, right? And it has happened in a few places in the country around bankruptcy with local governments. But the thing to remember is if a government declares bankruptcy, it only affects the pension if they go bankrupt and there's an unfunded pension liability. The pension has to be underfunded, right? So if you just look at the history of Arizona, I'm not aware of any governments in Arizona going bankrupt. So it hasn't happened. So that's a good history. But also, it's not relevant if the plan is funded, because in a bankruptcy, what they do is they reduce the pensions to reduce the unfunded liability and future contributions. Once the money is in the pension system, it can only be used to pay benefits. So that brings our goal that Scott McCarty went through in terms of the funded, the things that we're doing with the actuarial audits, experience studies, those things to increase and get the contributions in to make sure these plans are funded is very important, because that's that much more of a guarantee that everything's going to be paid out the way it was originally designed. And so the takeaway here is these funding policies are significant, especially for the individual employer plans. So if you look at those plans, if you're a member, what is the funding policy for your government? What are you doing to make sure the money is there? Because every additional dollar that goes in to reduce that unfunded liability is that much more of a guarantee your pension's going to be there, because it can only be paid out to pay benefits. And this is that same graph that Scott McCarty went over, just showing kind of the increase in funded status over time and how we're working with employers to get it there. So the other part, when you start talking about this lifetime income and it's guaranteed, it's great that all I have to do is wake up to get my check, right? But the other part of this is the great thing about pensions is one of those earlier slides I talked about, the concern of those getting close to retirement is they're going to outlive their retirement income, right? So how long, one of the big questions that is always asked in retirement planning, how long are you needing income in retirement? Which to me is kind of a joke, right? Nobody knows how long you're going to need that, but that's one of the first questions that's asked. How long do you need income in retirement? 80, 90, we saw the picture of Benny up there at 105, still earning a pension. And so how do you plan for that? And then if you just think about the scenario, what if you're 6 months away from retirement and then there's a recession and you're relying on a 401k or 457 plan? So what is that going to do to your retirement? Even worse, what about if it's 6 months after you retire? Then how are you going to live on that income? When you have a pension, it's guaranteed, right? Your pension is not going to be affected by the market. That formula is locked in based on your hire date. So that money is going to be there. It's really going to help get you set up for the long term. So in terms of the basic challenge, the other thing in addition to the two dates, so you got the hire date, retirement date are the two key dates in terms of the pension in explaining this to members. The other thing is, okay, so what's that formula mean? If I lock in that formula on a hire date, well, how do I explain that formula? Because it gets very complicated with the multiplier and the different years, service requirements. I try to explain it just using two basic key factors, right? And every pension plan kind of works this way, right? The first one is your years of service times your average compensation. So those are the two pieces. So they're going to be different for every plan. So everybody kind of needs to dig into that and figure out how am I going to plan for how long I need to work, what level of income I need. But it's two basic factors. How long are you going to work and what's your average compensation? That's going to determine your pension. And then the other thing is to explain normal retirement, because we always put the qualifier of normal retirement. Normal retirement just means you're not going to have an early retirement. So whether it's 20 years of service, 25 years of service, depending on the tier you're in, age 62 with 10 years of service, there's normal retirement definitions in statute. But if you make normal retirement, it means you get the full formula that's in statute. And just keep reminding, you will never outlive your pension. So when you start thinking about having that guaranteed money and you're not going to outlive that pension, what does that mean? So retirement to me is not about stopping. So on the earlier slides, remember that there was one where there was a number of people close to retirement. They're worried that they're never going to be able to retire, right? And so again, that's a bleak observation. To me, retirement is not about when I'm going to stop working. Retirement is about when am I going to do something different? What are the options? What are the possibilities that are out there? So what about new careers, new hobbies? I worked with somebody who was chief probation officer at Coconino County. And he was retiring, and he told me what he wanted to do, his whole career, what he wanted to do was learn how to run heavy equipment. He became an apprentice with a construction company to run big equipment because he wasn't worried about what his income was. It was just a hobby. It was something he wanted, and that's what he did. He spent the next year going and working construction. He was running big equipment. And once he got done with that, he went on to something else. It was really about options. You know, what do I want to do? What are the possibilities? Where do you want to live? I have some places on here. I'll go through where we deposit, direct deposit pensions across the world, actually. This fall, I attended a wedding. I was introduced to a retiree from the City of Phoenix Fire Department. I put my hand out to shake his hand. He pushed my hand away and hugged me. He said, "Thank you." He spends 6 months of every year in Florida fishing and 6 months in Arizona relaxing. He said he's loving life because he has a pension. And what does he do to earn it? He wakes up. It's just an example about how you have different opportunities. And when you have somebody who's 25 years old, starting a career, trying to decide what they're going to do, ask them the question, right? How many people do you know that can try something completely new in their 50s and not have to have compensation be the primary driver in that decision? Right? That's a great opportunity for someone to start planning for and looking into the future, right? And to just compare that, so how many people do you know in their 50s that can have that choice? And probably most of them in their 50s are worried about, are they going to be able to retire? That's a completely different perspective. So if you just start thinking about options and what having a pension and these kind of jobs offers you at that point in your life, it's pretty, it can be pretty meaningful to somebody who's trying to make a decision about what they're going to do. So again, these understanding pensions, this slide. The other thing about pensions, we hear a lot about the cost to taxpayers, right? Why do I have to pay for these guys to have a pension when I don't have a pension? The other thing to remember about a pension is it comes back to the economy. Right? It's also a contributor back to the economy for those taxpayers. And so when you look at what we pay out every year, so back in July, we were paying out about 23,000 retiree checks going out, right? Retirees, survivors, beneficiaries, you look at the whole group. That's equal to the population of Fountain Hills, Florence, and Anthem together. That's a pretty large population if you think about the income that's providing. That's over $1 billion a year. So you just think about $1 billion contributor into the economy, because that's going to restaurants, retail, establishments. That's a lot of money going back into the economy. So yes, there's tax dollars, contributions going into the pension system. There's also a very large amount of money going back into the economy. And then when you look at the bottom, the pensions equal options. So we're paying to retirees in 49 of the 50 states. And then also Austria, Canada, Costa Rica, Italy, New Zealand, anywhere around the world. So when you start talking about possibilities and options that are out there, this really opens up those options. Because really, to earn that paycheck, you got to wake up. You can do it in New Zealand. We don't have a restriction on that. Wherever it is, you wake up, you get paid. So what does this mean in terms of the value? How much money is there? So when we looked across our system in terms of those options, so average gross annual pension distribution and the average net. So we do have some things that come out of pension checks. The big one would be health insurance. So if the health insurance premium comes out, there's going to be a reduced pension. But just looking at that net value, $40,000, and remember, that's not just public safety. That includes corrections, elected officials. There's a lot of different plan structures. And so looking at $40,500 a year, if I look at a present value, 30 years at 5%, that's over $650,000 would be the equivalent to create that annuity, right? And so if you look at that bottom bullet, about 8% of baby boomers have a retirement fund of at least $500,000. So that average of $40,000 a year puts you in the top 10% of baby boomers in planning for retirement. Just having that pension available and what that means in terms of value. You're not wealthy, you're not traveling on yachts around the world, but it's a very good living, and when you look at that across the averages, it's a pretty good benefit. And so the one thing, that historical perspective, basic retirement planning used to be based on the three-legged stool. And the three-legged stool has the defined benefit pension. That's one of those three legs. It's about 10% of the population now have a defined benefit pension. So 90% of the workers out there do not have a defined benefit. There is, for most workers, there is no such thing as a three-legged stool, right? So having that option available for our members, it's a pretty big deal in terms of just retirement and what you have available. Again, this win-win in terms of pensions. The money comes into the pension, but it also gets paid out, goes back into the economy in retirement. And this is important because there's some misunderstandings about what happened historically when pensions really went away on the corporate side. The way this is framed now is the defined contributions were put in place to replace the pensions, and that's not what happened. That was another alternative to help give more control to labor to create their retirement funding. It was when the pensions were not properly funded, when the employers were not paying the full annually required contributions. There was the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, where it was cheaper for a corporation to pay a premium to insure their pension than to actually put the pension contributions in the system. So not funding it correctly and not making bad management plans in terms of managing pensions were the problem. And so that's why it's really critical that we don't use this as a budget management tool. We need to be realistic about how we manage these pensions over the long term. Again, making changes to assumptions, making sure the contributions are right, and that continued progress to the funding is what's important. And really what happened was that what happened with those pensions was they switched from defined benefit to the defined contribution as a way to transfer that risk. So it didn't fall on the employers down the road if it wasn't funded correctly. The employers were the ones that took on the risk. And so that's the reason there at the bottom that the pensions really need to be managed proactively and realistically. We need to set the contributions appropriate to have the money there. I'm a firm believer, defined benefit. I think it's a win-win. I think it works for the economy, it works for the taxpayers. Honestly, this again is personal experience. My parents were both retirees in ASRS. They were able to pay their entire lifetime what they needed. They went into assisted living. They were able to pay for that using their ASRS pension. If people don't have money in their retirement, is it just, oh, too bad, we're not going to worry about it? Somebody is going to end up paying, whether it's safety net programs through the government, whether it's family, somebody's going to end up taking care of people. And so we are better off planning. So sustainability-wise, it's a win-win. They're cost-effective because somebody's going to end up paying reliable lifetime income, positive contributions, that three-legged stool. We have to be realistic about how we manage them. But really, retirement equals options. I'm excited about options that all of our members will have in retirement. And so again, this is a summary, this is a repeat slide. So the important things when you're talking to members, the first one is what is the benefit, what is that formula, right? It's the years of service and your average compensation. Those are the two key factors. And just keep reminding, you will never outlive your pension. And that formula is guaranteed when you're hired. Congratulations on your hire date. You just locked in your formula for retirement. That's an achievement right there. Number two is when you hit that retirement date, you're going to get paid every month for just waking up. That to me is the big takeaway. That is something that could resonate with someone in their 20s. Through experience, it actually worked with my kids. They actually listened. So that's my quick summary on helping to try to identify. This is, as I said, this is to help you. The materials are available online. And if there's any comments, questions anybody has, I don't see any. If you have any comments or suggestions, this is my first run at how to put this together to help people explain pensions. So if you have any suggestions, find me as we walk around. I'd be happy to take comments and add to it. We do have some microphones walking around if there's any questions from anybody. I love it. That means it was crystal clear. All right. Next up, we have Diane McAllister and Doug Cole, the lobbyists for the system, who are going to give you an update on where we are with legislative topics.